Hello, everybody. So today we are talking about the Danzas indígenas de Mexico. So for those who don't know me, I am Cecile. I do a lot of cultural workshops all over Dallas-Fort Worth, and now on the internet. I do pretty cool amazing things. But I wanted to ask, what are some pre-Hispanic traditions that we know about, or like what are some dances that are Latin American based that you know of? So whenever we think about Hispanic dances, specifically, like at least for me, right, it's always ballet folclórico, bachata, and cumbia. But even then, they're not all from Mexico. Ballet folclórico has a lot of different variations. Cumbia originally originated from Colombia, and bachata is from the Dominican Republic. Also, I forgot to put a picture of norteñas in there, but also norteñas. Either way, how are four dances going to represent the whole region of the Mexica people of our community? They can't. So that's why this video is here today. I also wanted to point out that those previous dances are from colonial times, and that's the only reason that they existed because of the conquistadores españoles. And again, these are all the indigenous communities of Turtle Island. So again, those dances aren't even our culture, and even then, they don't represent any of us. Not at all. These are as many lists as I could put the indigenous communities in Mexico. And I wanted to really put them for what is now Mexico because even then, Aztlan is still technically, Chicanos, indigenous people, whatever you want to call it. We are also an indigenous community that has our own dances. So all these communities in Mexico have their own dances. And then Aztlan area that I showed earlier that was blue is also missing its community dances that none of us know. So I wanted to talk about only six dances today because those are the ones that I know the most. Danza de los Viejitos de los Purépechas in Michoacán, Mexico, which is where some of my family is from. Danza de los Voladores, que normalmente son de la gente Nahua, Huastec y Otomi, en la Ciudad de México or in Mexico City. Danza de la Pluma en Zapotecas de Oaxaca y en el estado de Jalisco, México se ven más. Danza del Venado, que es de la parte indígena de Yaqui, en Sonora, México. Danza de los Cocheros, que normalmente son de la comunidad indígena de los Chichimecas. I don't know the region for the Chichimecas, though, so forgive me on that one. And Danza Azteca, that actually is the lowlands region of Mexico, but a lot of people actually use it here in the States. And it's a legitimate form of dancing and, you know, revolution type of things. So some of you may know that these danzas de los viejitos, especially if you're from Michoacán, specifically they come from the Purépechas community, and specifically it's Tarche Huaracua. I believe I pronounced it right, but I could be wrong. That's how you. Purépechas is the name that we call it, but their actual real name is Tarche Uruaca. Danzas fueron realizados por cuatro hombres. Dances were realized by four men representing fire, uh, water, earth, and wind. It was traditionally given to the old god or son of God or god of sun or fire, as we say. Now we usually see these dances on September 15th and the 16th, and it's actually a representation of the cycle of life, where old men represent the end of the cycle and the beginning of a new one. This dance is usually performed by 4 to 5 men, dressed in traditional clothing with straw hats and canes, and their own like paper mache masks that they made. So although this mask isn't the one I would choose, it's still pretty good representation of what the outfit, el traje, is for La Danza de los Viejitos. Again, it has become from pre-Hispanic times, so it has changed a little, right? But even then, they make homemade masks, camisas y pantalón de manta, jorongo, un sombrero de palma con listones de colores, una máscara, huaraches de llanta o garbancillo, y bastón de madera. And then this is another dance that it's so dear to my heart because I see them a lot in la Ciudad de México, especialmente allí en el Zócalo, or for those who don't speak Spanish, the downtown central in Mexico City. Because first it is Mexico City, la Ciudad de México, and then it's el Estado de México, the state of Mexico City. Doesn't make sense in English, that's why we only say it in Spanish. So educate. Anyways, the Totonacos, which is that the indigenous communities, they are known for their typical dance of Danza de los Voladores. It's a ritual for the Totonacos, and it's usually, I believe, origin of Veracruz and northern Puebla. They also have symbolize like this dance symbolizes the gods trying to basically like the people trying to like beg for good things or ask for good things and good health of the community. It requests gods to obtain good harvest and good health for the community members. So that's the way they go and praise their god. So the Flyers' clothing, as you saw, that they were mostly men, and I believe it's only men, but I'm not sure on that one. Either way, the Flyers' clothing consists of a white blanket and a conical shaped hat with plumes, symbolizing El Quetzal. Small mirrors to represent the sun rays, colored ribbons that represent the rainbow once the drops fall, water, of rain, flowers woven into the chest or belt for the fertility and the earth, and two velvet half circles representing the wings of birds. The red pants are the blood of the dancers who have died. And so I think it's pretty cool. You see how beautiful it is. And I saw also the way sometimes they have little flutes, which I also think is really cool. And it's just really, really great and amazing how our culture shows how much we praise and love Earth differently for everybody, right? Because of different regions and the way everyone is influenced among their culture. But I really specifically wanted to bring this to light because some people just see them as pretty flying people, and that's not what they are. They are so much more than that, and they have a history. Now, this one I didn't know. I am not from Oaxaca, unfortunately, because of my family. They do not want to go to Oaxaca, but I will go to Oaxaca without them now that I'm an adult. Anyways, Danza de la Pluma de los Zapotecos de Oaxaca. And that's how you pronounce that. Oaxaca. Oaxaca. La danza de la pluma de los Zapotecs de Oaxaca relates to the process of the Spanish conquest in that it signifies the passage of time before and after the landing of the conquistadores. As you can see, they have very giant things, and I'm pretty sure their back hurts from all the dancing and their huaraches and everything. Huaraches are sandals for those who don't know. And again, it's really, really cool, and I really, really love it. And I don't know what I would do without it. It's a really nice, beautiful traditional dance. I'm not sure necessarily when they celebrate this or when they perform this ceremony, but as you can see, it is takes a lot of effort, energy, and practice. So again, it is very, very important for all of us to research more into it. In addition to me. El traje de la danza de las plumas es único y nada más es de Oaxaca. El penacho prehispánico, del penacho prehispanic, camisa bordada de estilo indígena, el pectoral, capa de brocados de flecos dorados, pantalones brocados de colores verde, blanco y rojo. So its dancers are only men who wear huaraches or sandals for you, red socks, blue pants, I think, yeah, blue pants, white shirts, mantilla or blue cape, ribbons tied to their arms, and two white cloths. They are wearing a crown adorned with flowers and mirrors. And as you can see, they have to make those headdresses themselves. You do not buy it on Amazon or at the store, or you have to go find somebody who makes them for you, and that takes a really, really long time. In addition, all of these things are handmade, and not just this one, right? But the other ones that we talked about before. It's just that this one has a lot more detail and it's more tedious, I feel like, because of the headdress. I know to some people who do not come from this culture may look at this and see it as silly. However, again, it is a pre Hispanic tradition that has a lot of cultural meaning, a lot of spiritual significance, and it's just basically their whole life. So please do not disrespect. This specific dance is called Danza del Venado, the deer dance, and it's one of the most important rituals of the Yaqui and Mayo communities that live in Sonora and Sinaloa, which is some of the states in Mexico. With pre Hispanic origins, the dance is a representation of the natural world, and its movements, sounds, and music, as well as its paraphernalia, clothing, allude to said animal. As you can see, this image is again, I believe, by the men, but I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that sometimes women are allowed. And then he has an actual deer on his head. I'm assuming it's a real one, and it's tied kind of funny, but they have to put it on their head, like I said. And they also have, from what I can see, people, like playing the tambor on the ground. That's what you see on there. That's what you see, the three men that are kind of like kneeling and hitting something. That's what they're doing. The deer dancer has a stuffed deer head tied over his head, covered by a white blanket that covers even his eyes. The Yaromes call it a masokoba. Each antler has a red ribbon. And as you can see, the differences over here on the actual image of the pollueto con las muñecas, a collar de conchas, and it's a yaqui and a mayo, and then traje de manta cubierto del rostro, which is their face, flores en los cuernos for some, but it's actually red ribbons for others. So, Danza de los Concheros originally has a couple of variations, the Chichimecas, the Aztecas, and the Mexicas. Its purpose is to call down the ancestral spirits, to give their blessings, and to purify observers through ritual smoke. The shell dance begins with a greeting and a song of the four cardinal points, or the four directions. The shell dance is what it's called or referred to, but it's porque tenemos ayoyotes, and I will show you in the next image, and it's really, really cool. The clothing consists of colorful regalia. That's what the outfit is called, the traje. It is not a costume, it's called the regalia, that consists of a skirt, knee pads, wrist guards, breastplates, and plume feathers. The feathers are now bison, peacock, rooster, artificial, or ostrich. The fabric of the costume is usually very bright in color. This danza has been transformed into a new danza called Azteca danza, as it descends from a danza category that was caused due to colonization, Danza de los Conquista, that was created by the Concheros, but we use it today, and we will talk more about that a little after a slide or two, so that we can see the differences and learn a little bit more about our history. This is Danza de los Concheros. This is what they wear, and you can definitely see the difference from this one and then the one of the Azteca danza. The clothing is characterized by colorful regalia that consists of a skirt, knee pads, wrist guards, breastplates, and a plume of feathers. They also have ayoyotes at their ankles, and the feathers, right, they're now different instead of what it would be back then. And the fabric of the costumes, again, are usually very bright, beautiful colors, really, honestly. And now we have Danza Azteca. I know some people talk a lot of garbage and try to make it look bad, that it's like derived from Los Concheros and that we're stealing it, but that's actually not true. They actually made it and they actually have done a lot of stuff and allowed us to do it. So Danza Azteca is a contemporary dance tradition whose origins date back to the early Spanish colonial era of the 1500s era in Mexico. It descends from a larger dancer category called Danzas de la Conquistas, conquest dances, and we talked about some of those in the previous danzas too. The story of the danza begins with the concheros, and it's a spiritual syncretic dance which was developed in the lowlands regions of Mexico. And this region encompasses parts of modern central Mexican states like Aguascalientes, Guanajuato, Querétaro, y Jalisco. Maybe you guys know Lazaro Arbizu. He revived the tradition in Los Angeles, California, dedicated his whole life to reviving this tradition. And actually, this danza started back in the States in the 1960s with the Brown Berets. And so during the 1970s, this dance began in the States. That was something that they wanted to reclaim as a tradition. In addition to Aslan, they reclaimed Danza Azteca. As we can see the differences of the different types of trajes, I really wanted to point this out because from the concheros, they're more covered, and I'm not sure if it's because of the weather, but that's what they look like. And then our dresses of danza aztecas, they are also very different. They look more for like the summer tropical type of thing. And I can assure you that even though it's very, very skin showy, it is still hot there when we dance. And so we have the sonaja, which is the ayacachli, the yoyotes, which is the seed leggings. It's those little brown things with the shells on them. A poposhkomi is the smoking base pot where people inhale the smoke for the ritual, and the kopili, which is the headdress. And as you can see, there's different types of things. And again, you have to hand make this. You do not buy it like pre-made from a machine or something. They do not sell it on Amazon, and you have to make the kupili. You have to make everything by hand, especially the ayoyotes. And if not, you have to go and ask for them, and it takes a long time to prepare. And people sometimes personalize it, which is great, but I still haven't found one of my own. Either way, this is a very, very beautiful regalia, traje, but never a costume. And should be always, always respected. And if it is not your culture, then at least amplify your voices when you see it, and amplify your voices by correcting someone who does not pronounce things properly or correctly. Esto es algo que yo encontré. This is something that I found online by the Mexican government websites. This is something that I found. Esto es algo que encontré yo en la parte del internet de la página del gobierno de México y dice que las diferencias de los danzas aztecas y de los concheros. Again, this is something that I found on the government website of Mexico, and it says the differences of the oh, danza concheros, and danza azteca. As you can see, just the visual differences without me having to zoom in into the image. It says más o menos the groups are autonomous of one another, and you could definitely see like the different eras of which it began, which in the danza azteca is it says 20th century, but the 20th century is when it became more popularized because, again, it was in the 1970s that it came into the States and was revived by the Brown Berets of all different like regions of the United States. And Danza de los Conquistas de los Concheros Tradiciones was back like way earlier. And you can see really the differences, right, of the instruments that they use, the way they're dressed. I don't know about the colors necessarily, if that means anything, but again, it's just something very, very important to notice. So, although we are on YouTube, this is the online activity or the activity that I had for my workshop today. Everyone will choose one of the danzas that we talked about, and then you will have to grab the material needed for your mask. So, you can either make a mask de los viejitos, one of the dances of the totonacs, where they like the danza de los voladores, the other dances of del venado, the danza azteca, danza de los concheros, and then the other one that I can't remember right now. But please look up what the typical face mask paint and outfit is for the headdress. You can just make it out of paper. It doesn't have to be perfect. We can make feathers out of construction paper if needed, and also clay for the wrinkles of like the danza de los viejitos, de la máscara de los viejitos. At the end, we will share that group, where that group is in Mexico, to remind everyone where it is, because all of these dances, there are a lot of them, and I only mentioned six, and not even then into great detail, because I am not a PhD person and can't fit everything in this video. But at the end, we will share where that group is in Mexico and quiz each other and where they do that or when they do that dance and why. So that's something for everybody to look into, because again, I just sprinkled a little bit of magic, and a lot of these dances again are for harvest, for fertilization, to make sure the community is healthy. It is a version of prayer for these communities, and it is something to respect. And once people decolonize and reconnect with their indigenous roots, I can't wait for that day to happen. But it all starts with you. And again, these dances are just so, so important to me. I feel like, unfortunately, because of the gentrification in Mexico or the new colonization of Mexico by the white US civilians, it has been getting more and more lost and more assimilated because we are scared because they have more power than us on a universal global level, and they can destabilize us in any moment. But this way is an act of resistance. This way of dancing, going and reconnecting with your roots, of your people, of your connection, is so, so beautiful. And I specifically know because my family is Otomi, Purepecha, and then a bunch of other stuff that I don't know because, unfortunately, of the domestic violence and stuff like that happened within the families, or like the violence of colonization and all these other things that I just don't know. There's some things that I don't know about my own family, and although it is sad, I will only collect what I do have remaining and reconnect with my roots, and I hope you guys can do the same. In addition to the people who I ask, of the Indigenous community members, of people that I know and their identity will remain a secret, these are also some of the links that I have. And so I hope you guys really, really like this video. Again, I'm Cecile and I cover a lot of topics, but if you have any questions, please comment down below. And again, you should follow me on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, I guess now, Pinterest, do whatever you want, so that we can reconnect together with our Indigenous roots and decolonize our history, decolonize our knowledge of our own community, our own culture, because unfortunately, a lot of us are lost without knowing it. So I hope you guys like this, and I hope you guys can love each other once more and love your Indigenous roots. Thank you. Bye bye.